Discover the incredible power of faith. 40 miraculous ways God's plan transforms lives. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came to Jerusalem and besieged it. The Lord gave Jehoiakim into his hand, along with some of the vessels of the house of God, and he brought them to the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. Thus began a dark chapter for Israel, as God's chosen people now found themselves captives in a kingdom steeped in idolatry and corruption. Daniel, a young Hebrew man, set foot in Babylon alongside his loyal friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. As they passed through the grand gates of the mighty city, the sights and sounds overwhelmed their senses. Towering statues glinted in the sun, their false deities calling out in the silence of their hearts, coaxing them toward a world of luxury and excess. But in the depths of their souls, a flicker of faith remained, an ember flickering against the oppressive darkness of the pagan city. In the royal palace, they were introduced to a life of lavishness unknown to them. Sumptuous feasts adorned with rich wines and exotic foods were laid before them, dedicated to the gods of the Babylonians. Yet Daniel felt the weight of their covenant with Yahweh, the God of Israel. The food was unclean, a direct compromise to their beliefs. At this crossroads, they faced a monumental decision: to indulge or to remain faithful to their God. As tension mounted among the royal officials, Daniel stepped forward with a bold yet quiet resolve. "Let us eat only vegetables and drink water for 10 days, he proposed to Ashpenaz, the palace chief. A mixture of curiosity and skepticism flickered in Ashpenaz's eyes, but Daniel remained steadfast. "Then, let our appearance be compared with those who eat from the royal table." His heart raced as he offered the challenge, knowing that he entrusts not just his fate, but that of his friends, into the hands of the Almighty. They united in silent prayer, pledging to maintain their faith against the pressures around them. Each day, as they consumed their humble meals, they joined in thankfulness, their spirits rising as they relied on God's provision in this foreign land. During those 10 days, they grew stronger and healthier, their countenances shining with vitality as they aligned their hearts with the one who had not forsaken them. When Ashpenaz gathered them again for comparison, the results were undeniable. Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah stood radiant amidst the shadows of the pagan court. The officials were astonished, witnessing the hand of God reveal itself through faithfulness and resolve, yet, Daniel felt a nagging unease in the air as rumors of impending tests swirled. What other challenges awaited them? Would they continue to stand firm against a culture that sought to erase their identity? With each breath, doubts lingered, yet hopes flickered. Could God's plan be unfolding before their eyes? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. With courage fortified in their hearts, they committed to withstand the trials ahead. God was moving in ways unseen, preparing them for remarkable miracles to come, urging them to maintain their truth amid the swell of Babylonian opposition. Would they emerge victorious in the upcoming trials, or would their faith falter as the shadows of adversity drew closer? The resonance of Daniel's faith echoed through the palace. Was the future God promised still alive in their hearts? One thing was certain: the ultimate test of faith was approaching, and their choice could change everything. In the following days, as the sun rose over Babylon, casting long shadows across the palace, Daniel and his companions found themselves favored in the sight of Nebuchadnezzar. The king, recognizing their wisdom, summoned them time and again to seek counsel regarding his dreams and troubling thoughts which perplexed him. It came to pass that Nebuchadnezzar had a troubling dream that brought him to the brink of despair. The dreams haunted his nights, leaving him restless, unable to find peace. So he called upon all the magicians, enchanters, and sorcerers of Babylon to interpret the vision. Yet none could unveil the mystery that clamored in the depths of his soul. Frustrated and anxious, Nebuchadnezzar decreed that all wise men of Babylon should be put to death. The fear of death loomed heavy as the royal guard sought Daniel and his friends, searching for their names among the wise men. When the captain of the guard reached Daniel, the young man stood resolute. Without hesitation, he asked, "Why is the decree so urgent?" The captain explained the king's torment, and with a heart full of compassion and faith, Daniel sought to gain an audience with Nebuchadnezzar. He requested time to reveal the interpretation of the king's dream, a request met with skepticism but granted nonetheless. Daniel returned to his companions, urging them to join him in prayer. "Let us beseech the God of heaven for mercy," he urged, "that he may reveal this mystery to us so that we may not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon." In the solitude of their prayer, they sought the Almighty, calling upon him with fervor and desperation. That night, as they sought the Lord, a vision was revealed to Daniel in a dream. The weight of revelation settled upon him like a mantle, filling him with awe at the wisdom of God. When morning light broke through, Daniel arose, his heart soaring with praise as he recognized the great mercy of God. He immediately went to the king and spoke with confidence, "I have come to make known to you the interpretation of your dream." Nebuchadnezzar, with eyes wide open, listened intently as Daniel recounted the dream: the image of a great statue, its head of gold representing his kingdom, and the subsequent parts made of silver, bronze, iron, and clay, symbolizing the empires that would come after him. Each layer a revelation of the sovereignty of God in the affairs of men, portraying the rise and fall of nations, culminating in a kingdom not made by human hands. As Daniel spoke, the king's face transformed, disbelief giving way to wonder. "Truly, your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings," Nebuchadnezzar declared, humbled by the truth laid bare before him. The breath of divine revelation enveloped the throne, and the power of the Most High was made manifest. Exalted above all, Daniel received gifts and honors from the king, but he knew in his heart to give praise where it was due. With humility, he urged the king to recognize the eternal kingdom that God had promised. "For our God is not merely the God of dreams, but he reveals the mysteries of the ages," he declared. In that moment, the tides of history shifted, for the faithfulness of Daniel and his friends had placed them in a position of influence. Yet, as shadows lingered in the court, whispers echoed of future trials, and Daniel sensed the stirring of a greater challenge on the horizon. What would become of their faith amid this fleeting glory, and how would they stand against the rising tide of opposition? Thus, a new chapter awaited, revealing the unfolding of God's sovereign plan, a test of faith that would not simply define Daniel but change the course of generations to come. Now it came to pass, after the king's heart had turned toward the God of Daniel, that a feast was prepared in Babylon in honor of his newfound reverence. Nebuchadnezzar commanded his nobles, the high officers, and the wise men to gather in grand celebration, proclaiming, "Let all the people behold the favor that rests upon these men of God." In the midst of the revelry, however, the king's pride began to swell within him. As the night wore on, he rose to address the assembly, extolling the might of Babylon and the greatness of his own dominion. "Is this not the great Babylon that I have built by my mighty power and for the glory of my majesty?" he proclaimed, his voice echoing throughout the palace halls. Yet, while he spoke, a voice like thunder resounded from heaven, interrupting his words. "O King Nebuchadnezzar, to you it is declared, the kingdom has departed from you. You shall be driven from among men, and your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field." As the king stood, his countenance fell, and a great fear gripped his heart. For Daniel had been granted insight into the king's fate, and he drew near with sorrowful eyes. "My lord, may the dream concern those who hate you, and its interpretation bring peace. Repent of your sins, and show mercy to the oppressed, that your days may be lengthened," Daniel urged, pleading for Nebuchadnezzar to heed the warning from on high. But the heart of the king remained hard, and the following days bore witness to a descent into madness. As prophesied, he wandered the mountains and fields, living like a beast, until his hair grew long like eagle's feathers and his nails became like claws. Yet in this, God's hand was at work, weaving a narrative of redemption unseen in the eyes of man. At the end of 7 years, the king's mind was restored, and he lifted his gaze to heaven, acknowledging the sovereign power of the Most High. I, Nebuchadnezzar, extol and honor the King of heaven, for all his works are true, and his ways are just, and those who walk in pride he is able to humble. His heart, once burdened by pride, bloomed with revelation, and he recognized the path of faith arrayed before him. In the court of Babylon, the news of the king's restoration spread like wildfire, and Daniel and his friends found their faith bolstered amidst the unfolding events. The glory of God became evident, binding their spirits with expectancy, for they understood that God was navigating the tapestry of history through trials and triumphs alike. As Daniel reflected on the incredible power of God, he knew that the challenges ahead would indeed require more than intellect and wisdom. They would demand unwavering faith, a faith that could withstand the fiery furnace that loomed on the horizon. The whispers of iron and flame began to echo within the chambers of Babylon, for an edict would soon arise, a test of conviction that would not merely contend with the resolute hearts of men, but would reveal the ultimate glory of the living God. Yet, unbeknownst to them, the sovereign plan of the Almighty was already set in motion, and in the midst of trial, God would manifest His presence in ways that would forever alter their destinies. What lies ahead remains a mystery intertwined with divine purpose, for the outcome will reveal the profound depths of God's promises to those who dare to believe. In those days, as Nebuchadnezzar proclaimed the mercy of God and restored order within his kingdom, a new decree was issued across Babylon. The king, now humbled and transformed, desired that all nations under his dominion should honor the God of Israel, whom he had come to know through his trials. Let it be known, he declared, that the Most High God is sovereign over the kingdoms of men and gives them to whom he will. But the tranquility of Babylon was soon disrupted by a sinister plot woven by the jealous hearts of the wise men, those who had once cringed at Daniel's exaltation. They approached the king under the guise of loyalty, whispering deceitful counsel. "O king," they said, "let an edict go forth that binds all men to worship your image, and anyone who refuses shall be cast into the fiery furnace." A grand statue of gold, 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide, was fabricated, adorned with jewels that shimmered under the sun's rays. The herald proclaimed aloud, "To you, O people, nations and men of every language, it is commanded that when you hear the sound of the music, you shall fall down and worship the golden image. But whoever does not fall down and worship shall be thrown into a burning fiery furnace." Thus, amid the gathering throng, the sound of the instruments played, and the people obeyed the decree of the king. Yet in the midst of the hundreds, stood 3 young men resolute in their faith: Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Their hearts remained steadfast, trusting in the one who had delivered them from peril, knowing he would not abandon them now. When the herald's voice rang through the air once more, a great tumult arose. The sight of the 3 men standing tall amidst the bowing multitudes ignited fury among the king's counselors. "O King Nebuchadnezzar," they shouted, "there are certain Jews whom you have appointed over the affairs of Babylon. They pay no heed to you, they do not serve your gods nor worship the golden image which you have set up." Fury consumed the king as he summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to his presence. "Is it true," he inquired, "that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image?" The 3 replied, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to defend ourselves in this matter. If we are thrown into the furnace, the God whom we serve is able to deliver us, he will rescue us from your hand, O king." The king's face blazed with anger. He commanded that the furnace be heated 7 times hotter than usual and ordered his mightiest soldiers to bind the 3 men and cast them into the flames. As they were thrown into the furnace, even the mighty soldiers perished from the raging fire, but lo! The king rose in haste, his countenance perplexed. "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" he queried. "Behold, I see 4 men unbound, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt, and the appearance of the 4th is like a son of the gods." With trembling hands and a heart that raced, Nebuchadnezzar approached the furnace and called out, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out and come here." And when they emerged, untouched by the flames, their hair unscorched and garments unsinged, the king knew that their God had intervened. "In truth," declared Nebuchadnezzar, "there is no other God who is able to deliver in this way. Thus he proclaimed a new decree, that all should honor the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, for he had made known his power above all earthly dominions. Yet, even in triumph, a deeper question stirred within the hearts of Daniel and his friends: what further trials await, and how might God's sovereign plan unveil itself, leading them into realms of glory they have yet to comprehend? The flames had revealed the clarity of faith, but the paths ahead remained shrouded in divine mystery, beckoning them to trust more deeply in the one who orchestrates all things for his perfect purpose. In the days following the miraculous deliverance of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the atmosphere within Babylon shifted. The hearts of the people were stirred, and whispers of awe concerning the Most High God spread through the land like wildfire. Nobles and commoners alike marveled at the grace bestowed upon the three Hebrews, who stood before the king, unwavering in their faith, even unto death. The decree of Nebuchadnezzar echoed in every corner of the city: whoever speaks anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill. Daniel 3 verse 29. Such fervor arose from the king's newfound reverence, yet a shadow lingered in his heart. The wise men, humiliated and incensed, schemed anew in the secret chambers of their minds. Among them was a certain sorcerer whose eyes gleamed with malice. He was determined to bring a greater wrath upon the servants of the Most High God. He waited for an opportunity, and soon, it came. The royal court was abuzz with news. King Nebuchadnezzar had decided to host a feast in honor of the new decree, a grand celebration meant to solidify his power and divine favor. As the day of the feast approached, the wise men plotted. "Let us challenge the faith of these audacious Jews once more," they conspired. "They escaped the furnace, but what good is their God if they can be ensnared by human temptation?" On the eve of the celebration, gathered at the king's banquet halls, the wise men approached the king, zeal stirring in their hearts. "Your Majesty," they said, "let us entertain a spectacle of greatness. Let us test these men, that they may be tempted to forsake their God for the pleasures of the feast." Nebuchadnezzar, his mind clouded with desire for admiration and allegiance, agreed to their scheme. The following day, a sumptuous banquet was laid, with dishes from every corner of the empire. The fragrance of roasted meats filled the air, and the sound of music flowed like a river through the halls. "Call forth the young men," Nebuchadnezzar commanded, seated upon his throne clad in royal splendor. "Let them partake of my table and honor the gods of Babylon, that they may be truly my loyal servants." When Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were summoned, a moment of heavy silence fell over the room. The king, with a searching gaze, asked them, "Will you partake in the feast of my glory, or will you remain steadfast in your disdain for what I offer?" In unison, the young men's voices rang clear, unwavering: "O king, we will not be defiled by your table, nor will we turn our hearts to serve your gods." Their conviction echoed in the hearts of those present, igniting a flame of loyalty that only God himself could kindle. Fury erupted within Nebuchadnezzar's heart once more. "How dare you defy my wishes? Do you not understand the power I wield? You will be cast into the lion's den if you persist in your insolence." But the men stood resolute, their faith unyielding. "The God we serve is able to deliver us, but if not, we will not bow down to your image nor partake of your feast." They looked upon the king, their eyes gleaming with resolve, confident in the one who was both their protector and their deliverer. A silence befell the room, pregnant with expectation, as Nebuchadnezzar's anger ignited into flames of wrath. "Heat the den 7 times hotter," he shouted. But even as he commanded, a deeper shadow whispered in his heart. Could this God truly deliver them once more? And so it was that as the lions roared and the flames licked hungrily at the night air, the question loomed. What greater acts would unfold for the glory of the Most High God? For within the fiery depths and the darkness of the lion's den, the next chapter of divine revelation awaited, beckoning all to ponder the mysteries of God's sovereign hand at work. As night descended upon Babylon, the roar of the lions echoed through the darkened streets, a sound both fearsome and foreboding. The den, now heated beyond measure, awaited its prey. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood before the mouth of the dark abyss, their hearts steadfast, emboldened by the faith that dwelled within them. In that critical hour, when the king's wrath reached its peak, the young men were bound with heavy cords, their hands secured by the very agents of Babylon who had long sought to undermine their faith. Yet, in their hearts, a divine trust blossomed, rooted in the covenant promises made by the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Fear did not find a resting place within their souls, rather, hope surged as assurance of deliverance ignited their spirits. Jeering cheers erupted from the gathering throng, a cacophony of scorn and mockery cast toward the condemned. "Let us see if their God comes to rescue them now," they shouted, doubting with hearts of stone, bound by the darkness of their own disbelief. With a fierce command, Nebuchadnezzar's voice boomed, "Cast them into the den. Let the lions feast upon their arrogance." The young men were thrust into the den, their faith blaring like a trumpet against the sound of despair that rang from those who witnessed the event. As they descended into the darkness, a hallowed silence enveloped the den. The only sound was their whispered prayers rising toward heaven. They positioned themselves, and immediately, a profound stillness settled around them. The ferocious beasts, instead of descending upon them, exhibited a posture of tranquility, as if a divine hand stayed their hunger. The king, filled with expectation and dread, returned to his palace, yet could find no rest. Anxiety gnawed at his heart, and as dawn broke, he was compelled to rush back to the den. "O Daniel! Servants of the Most High God!" he called, his voice barely a whisper against the lightning sky. "Has your God whom you serve continually been able to deliver you from the lions?" To his astonishment came the answers, not from thundering jaws, but from the very mouths of the young men. "O King, live forever. Our God has sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, that they have not hurt us, for we were found innocent in his sight." Daniel 6 verses 21-22. Nebuchadnezzar's heart trembled with amazement, awe pierced through the bitterness of his pride. "Bring them forth," he cried with incredulity, and as they emerged unscathed, the onlookers were stricken silent, their disbelief shattered before the unfathomable manifestation of God's power. The three men stood radiant, untouched by the jaws of death. In that profound moment of revelation, Nebuchadnezzar proclaimed a new decree throughout his kingdom. "All peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I make a decree, that in every dominion of my kingdom men tremble and fear before the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, for he is the living God, and steadfast forever." Daniel 6 verse 26. Yet as the sun rose high, a greater truth began to unfold. Unbeknownst to many, as the king's heart turned, a far-reaching providence came into play, a strategy woven through generations. The hearts of the faithful would not be tested only by lions or flames, but through the very corridors of empires, leading unyielding faith to the prophecy of long ago, and thus, the wondrous saga of the Most High continued to weave itself through history, beckoning those with open hearts to ponder anew the mysteries of God's sovereign plan at work, captivating all who dared to believe in his unfailing promises. What greater purposes lay ahead, concealed within the tapestry of time, waiting for revelation? And it came to pass that, in the days following this miraculous event, the hearts of the people of Babylon were stirred with awe and confusion. As they beheld the astonishing deliverance of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whispers of the God they served began to circulate through the streets. The majesty of the Most High was evident, for no man or god of Babylon could compare with his prowess. In the royal court, the king pondered deeply upon the events he had witnessed. Nebuchadnezzar sat upon his throne, surrounded by his advisors and nobles, yet felt a longing that drew him to seek out deeper truths. What manner of God is this? Who has the power to silence the mouths of lions, to wrest the fates of men from the clutches of death? He called for Daniel, who had long been a confidant and interpreter of dreams for the king. "Come near, O Daniel," the king beckoned with urgency. "Explain to me the significance of this God whom you worship. For I cannot shake the feeling that his hand is upon my kingdom, and I have not yet comprehended his will." Daniel approached with a reverent heart, for he understood the weight of the moment. "O King, live forever. The God we serve is the God of heaven and earth, the creator of all things. His sovereignty extends to all nations and peoples, nothing is hidden from his eyes. The deliverance of your servants is but a testament to his faithfulness." As Daniel spoke, the king felt a stirring within him, a flicker of faith ignited amidst the embers of his prior pride. Nebuchadnezzar raised his hand and declared, "Truly, the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is worthy of my praise. From this day forth, I shall honor him above all others." The court echoed with murmurs of agreement as the king's decree infused the air with reverence. And yet, Daniel knew that the king's transformation was but the beginning of a greater purpose, one that would stretch beyond the walls of Babylon. In the days that followed, the bravery of the three men inspired many to rise up against the idols of Babylon, spurring a movement of turning toward the God of Israel. Families began to gather in secret, sharing their hopes and faith in the one true God. And as the people turned their hearts to prayer, blessings began to flow, the land flourished, and peace reigned over the kingdom. But amidst this divine stirring, shadows lingered. The satraps, accustomed to the old ways and desires for power, plotted in secret. They spoke among themselves, "This is no mere act of fate, we cannot allow the worship of this God to spread unchecked. We must restore the order of our gods, or we shall become the forgotten in our own land." Unbeknownst to Daniel and his friends, forces were assembling, a tempest brewing that sought to extinguish the light of faith shining forth from their testimonies. And yet, the Spirit whispered to Daniel during the quiet hours, "Fear not, for I am with you unto the ends of the earth." For the assurity of God's covenant remained steadfast. Prophecy lingered on the horizon, a reminder of his omnipotent plan that transcends kingdoms and generations. "Remain faithful," he urged, "for I am at work in ways that will bring glory to my name and deliver my people." And so, within the tapestry of turmoil and faith, a divine truth awaited its unveiling. What further revelations would God unfold in the midst of a kingdom in the throes of transformation? What greater trial awaited, and how would the faithful endure the shadows still lurking? As the sun set upon Babylon with colors of crimson and gold, the hearts of many fervently awaited the next chapter of God's sovereign orchestration, ready to witness the unfolding of his timeless purpose revealed ever more profoundly. And it came to pass that in the twilight of that same week, a great gathering was convened in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar. The king summoned the satraps, the prefects, the counselors, and the governors, bidding them to assemble in the grand court, a crisp wind rustling through the banners that adorned the entrance. "Come forth," declared the king, his voice echoing among the stone pillars, "for the days of my kingdom shall not be marked by division nor diminished by the reverence of foreign gods." The assembly quieted, each heart attuned to the tumult of the king's spirit. As they gathered, Nebuchadnezzar proclaimed, "With the authority vested in me, I decree that all of Babylon shall henceforth honor the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And any that speak against this God, let them meet their folly." A murmur of surprise swept through the crowd, for the fate of kings was often sealed by their rivals, and many wondered at the king's newfound fervor. But the satraps, feeling the stirrings of unrest within their hearts, spoke among themselves in hushed tones. "This king has been bewitched by their miracle-working faith. We must act, or lose our own spirits in the shadow of this God." Then one among them, cunning and bold, proposed, "Let us craft a new decree that shall ensnare Daniel and his companions. An edict of worship shall be established solely to the king's might, declaring him as the supreme sovereign of all Babylon." The others nodded in agreement, plotting beneath the guise of allegiance. Thus, a royal proclamation was soon inscribed, urging all men to bow before the image of gold that Nebuchadnezzar had erected in the vast plain of Dura. "When the music sounds," it commanded, "then all shall fall down and worship the image, or face death in the flames." The day of the decree arrived, and the court was filled with musicians heralding forth songs of praise, instruments resonating in the still morning air. The people, anxious and mesmerized by the beauty of the assembly, stood before the towering image, while the sound of the trumpets echoed across the land. Yet, among the throng, 3 men stood resolute, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, their hearts ablaze with the truth of the living God. The majesty of the moment swirled around them, but they would not yield to the mandate of men. They turned their faces from the golden image, standing steadfast in their faith. At that instant, a cry arose from the satraps to the king, "O King Nebuchadnezzar, did you not command that every man must worship the image? Behold, there stand 3 men who defy your decree and honor not your God." The king, his heart now troubled, summoned them forth into his presence. "Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego," he questioned with fury mingled with curiosity, "that you refuse to serve my gods or to worship the golden image that I have set before you?" They replied with unwavering voices, "O king, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the fiery furnace, but even if he does not, we will not serve your gods or worship the image you have set." The king's face twisted with rage, for their courage was a stark challenge to his authority. "Heat the furnace 7 times hotter," he decreed, and thus, the flames roared with searing intensity. As they were bound and cast into the furnace, a seed of dread was sown amongst the people. Yet, in the stifling heat, a vision unfolded before the eyes of all present, for within the flames, 4 figures walked unscathed, and the 4th was like a son of the gods. In awe, Nebuchadnezzar rose quickly and approached the fiery furnace. The king spoke with trembling reverence, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come forth." And they emerged from the fire intact, their faith ignited in glory, for not even the smell of smoke lingered upon them. In that moment, the king's heart was transformed anew. He declared with a thunderous voice, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him." It was amidst this revelation that the heart of Babylon found itself at a pivotal juncture, ignited by faith and testimony. Could it be that what began in the depths of fire would illuminate the heights of heaven? What further plan did the Most High God weave into the destinies of his people? Faith had ignited a movement, shadows turned to light, and an empire stood on the brink of transformation. The truth was unfolding, and the next revelation awaited, anonymous yet profound, in the tapestry of divine providence. And it came to pass that as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood before the king, their faces radiant with the glory of their deliverance, a silence enveloped the court. The nobles and the people were astounded, for they had witnessed the power of the living God manifest in a way that none had ever seen. The king's proclamation reverberated like thunder, shaking the very foundations of Babylon. "Therefore, I make a decree," Nebuchadnezzar continued, his voice firm yet filled with wonder, "that any people, nation, or language that speaks anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, for there is no other God that can deliver after this sort." The eyes of the satraps darkened with rage and jealousy. They murmured among themselves, fanning the flames of their discontent. "This is but the beginning," they whispered. "He may honor them now, but he must come to his senses. Our influence is at stake." Yet, within the ranks of the faithful, a whisper of hope stirred, as the testimonies of the miraculous spread like wildfire through the land. Many began to turn from idol worship, drawn to the truth of the one true God who could save and deliver from death itself. In the days that followed, Daniel, the faithful servant of God who had been in exile as well, was called into the presence of the king. Nebuchadnezzar, captivated by the events that had unfolded, sought wisdom from the man of God. "O Daniel," he proclaimed, "the spirit of the holy gods is in you, and I have seen your excellence. I beseech you to interpret the dreams that haunt my nights." With solemnity, Daniel approached the king. "O king," he replied, "I am but a servant of the Most High God, and it is he alone who reveals the mysteries of the heavens. Tell me your dream, and I shall convey the meaning as it has been revealed to me." As the king shared the troubling visions of a great tree, reaching to the heavens, Daniel's heart quickened. "This is the decree of the Most High," he spoke, "that the king shall be driven from among men and dwell with the beasts of the field until 7 times pass over him. Yet, there is hope, turn from your sin and seek righteousness, so that your days may be prolonged." Nebuchadnezzar, prideful and mighty, experienced a great inner turmoil. He dismissed the warnings, yet the Spirit of God compelled him to remember the deliverance of the 3 Hebrew boys, igniting a flicker of truth in his heart. He pondered the depths of Daniel's words, for the realization struck like lightning. The sovereignty of God was undeniable that in the fullness of time, the king's pride led to his fall, just as the prophecy had spoken. He roamed the earth, a wild man among beasts, yet through his suffering, he learned humility and the grace that the Most High extends to all. At last, the king's senses returned, and as he lifted his eyes to heaven, he proclaimed, "Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth and his ways judgment. And those that walk in pride, he is able to abase." The transformation of the king rippled throughout Babylon, for the people's hearts softened towards the God of Israel. What began as defiance transformed into a testimony of grace and power, and many from all walks began seeking the God who could deliver from the flames and the darkness. But the days of Daniel and his companions were not yet complete, for in the stillness of the night, another vision awaited Daniel, deeper mysteries yet untold, as the divine began to weave the threads of prophecy, drawing every heart to the fulfillment of his eternal plan. What revelations awaited the faithful within the chambers of the Most High? Would the end reveal a glory unimagined? The unfolding of God's sovereign purposes loomed on the horizon. And it came to pass that the divine orchestration of God's plan made evident his sovereignty in all things. The hearts of many in Babylon turned toward the Most High, inspired by the deliverance of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The faith that had ignited a movement empowered the exiles to continue standing resolutely for their God, even amid trials that loomed on the horizon. In the years that followed, Daniel was granted visions revealing the unfolding future, each one a testimony of God's unyielding faithfulness and steadfast love. The interpretations came to him like sweet honey, unveiling empires that would rise and fall, yet with an undying assurance that God's kingdom would endure forever. The God of Israel continued to be exalted, transcending earthly might and human pride. Through moments of prayer and fervent intercession, Daniel and his friends called upon the God who had delivered them. Nebuchadnezzar's heart, now transformed, became a vessel of influence as he honored Daniel and gave him a place of prominence in his kingdom, a position not for personal gain, but to herald the glory of the Lord to all nations. Where pride had once led to his downfall, humility now paved the way for restoration and redemption. Yet, the plot was still thickening in the shadows, as the same satraps who had once conspired against Daniel continued to fan the flames of resentment. Unbeknownst to the king, they sought to ensnare Daniel in a net of their design, leveraging his faith against him. They schemed, "What good is this faith of Daniel if we twist it to our favor?" Thus, the decree was set forth: no man should pray to any god except the king himself for the span of 30 days. It was a trap, a blatant challenge to Daniel's devotion. The wise men, filled with malice, anticipated the moment of his own choice. Yet, knowing the truth of his faith, Daniel returned to his home, unyielded and defiant in spirit. 3 times a day, he knelt and prayed, his heart aligned with the will of the Almighty. His petitions rose like incense, filling the heavens with unshakable faith and fervent cries. It was then that the accusers came forth, excited by their scheme, and they found Daniel in prayer, undeterred by threats. Confronted with the consequences of his faith, Daniel did not waver. His destiny, intertwined with that of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, echoed the unwavering spirit of a true believer, a reminder that God is a refuge in seasons of trial. And so, cast into the lion's den, he entered not with despair but with hope, for he knew that the God who delivered his friends from the furnace would stand with him in the place of danger. When King Nebuchadnezzar learned of Daniel's fate, he rushed to the den at daybreak. Dread filled his heart for the man whose unwavering faith had once pulled him from the abyss of pride. "O Daniel! Has your God whom you serve continually been able to deliver you from the lions?" And from within the den came a voice, "O King, live forever. My God has sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, that they have not hurt me." Overwhelmed by the revelation of God's power, Nebuchadnezzar's heart swelled again with awe and reverence. "Bring him forth," he commanded, and as Daniel emerged unharmed, a new decree flooded the land proclaiming the enduring kingdom of the God of Daniel, a sovereign who rescues and delivers. And it is said that fear and reverence for God swept through Babylon as the people acknowledged his supremacy. They turned in droves toward the living God, led by the bold faith of a few brave souls, a profound testament to the redemptive power of unwavering devotion. Thus, the narrative came full circle, echoing for generations the truth that faith stands firm against adversity. The monarchs and kingdoms of the earth would come and go, but the truth of the Most High God remained, a beacon cutting through the darkness. The trials endured by Daniel and his companions would ripple through time, bringing forth a legacy of hope that would resonate in the hearts of the faithful. Therefore, my beloved friends, see in this unfolding tale of faith and steadfastness, we too are called to trust and proclaim the goodness of our God, who promises to deliver and restore. Let this story ignite a fire in your spirit. Seek Him, serve Him, and share His truth boldly, for you carry in your heart the flame of divine purpose. Now, do not wait another moment to draw nearer to this life-giving word. Subscribe immediately to our channel to stay connected to powerful stories that transform lives. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm. Your voice matters. Comment below about how this story impacted your faith, and share this video instantaneously with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. You need to act, for this is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Let us work together to reach more souls for Christ.